everyone. My name is Julianne Meyer, and you are watching Own Your Wellness. And happy, what day is it? Monday. Oh my goodness. After that wonderful long weekend for some of you, for those of us who work for ourselves, there's no such thing as a weekend, but we did enjoy our holiday as well. Drew and I went and volunteered at this amazing event in Tustin, California. And it started out as this really small thing where this one gentleman wanted to help the homeless and people who didn't have as many advantages, not necessarily homeless, to enjoy their holiday. So he asked a friend to borrow his dance studio that filled 30 people total. And he started there. And 15 years later, it's so big, it has to be out in this park. And there was, we were able to go up to the people and take their order and then serve them their dinner and then come back and serve them their dessert of choice. It was so amazing. And then there was also things like food pantry, clothing, books, children's toys, everything. So they could stop by for just about anything that they wanted. And it really got me thinking, and this is kind of a side note, but if he hadn't decided to even start that small event, then it never would have grown to as big as it is and affected so many people. There were so many volunteers there that it was a little hard to even help. But it's always like that when you volunteer on Thanksgiving for something like that. But it shouldn't stop anybody from ever doing that. So anyway, that's kind of how we spent our Thanksgiving. But I also have some other news. And this is also ties into the show today. If you don't know me at all by now, you should know that I love silly jokes. I love puns. I love dad jokes. I love it all. I love anything that is, just kind of corny. So I always think about plays on words and things like that. And, that's how the title of today's show came because, being present is also a present, the kind you unwrap, that sort of thing. But it really, it hit home for me how important this episode is because I went dress shopping for my upcoming wedding, and I'm not one of those girly girls. I am not somebody that has planned their wedding since they're like 5 years old or even thought about what kind of dress they're going to have or whatever. I'm like, when it comes to that kind of stuff. But I went to this wedding shop, first time ever. I've been a bridesmaid and a maid of honor like 7 times, and I've still never been dress shopping. So this is my first time in a bridal shop. And the very first dress I tried on was the dress. And it was weird because the whole experience was like 45 minutes because, I tried on other things, etc. But the first dress was the dress. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because had I not been soaking in that moment, then I would have missed the moment. I didn't know that was the moment when it was happening. So I think it's really important to talk about really being present for our lives, even through the hard stuff. Now, I'm somebody who's lost countless people. I've been through so many traumas. It's ridiculous. And so I understand the idea of wanting to protect yourself from pain and protect yourself from maybe negative feelings. But the thing is when you do that, you miss out on everything else. And at some point you do get to appreciate even those painful moments because you're alive. And it takes a while for most people, myself just included, but it's so important that we truly, truly stay aware of our lives. Now, I'm going to give you a good, for instance, example, that sort of thing about something that happened to me. And I'm sure everyone here can relate to their own version of this. I was living in Jersey at the time, and I didn't want to live in Jersey. I had no desire, and I felt stuck there. And, it was just a bad situation. And I was with somebody who I loved. And he passed away, but he just wasn't the person, and as much as I wanted him to be, he was really like a best friend more than anything. My point is we broke up, and now all of a sudden I'm walking our dog, and it was like, all of a sudden I appreciate the trees and I appreciate the park, and I start crying because I'm never going to see any of this again. So the thing is like, what if I could have just enjoyed that while it was happening instead of waiting until it was gone? You know, what about if we could just sit there and actually stop and pay attention to what's happening right now and actually enjoy the moment? Because, one of my spiritual mentors said to me something along, and he knows me really well. He said this to a group of us, but I took it to heart. I can't stand listening when people chew. It drives me bananas. And I'm talking it so bad that I can't even stand listening to myself chew sometimes. I'm just like, oh no, it's like skin, crawling, nails on a chalkboard, the whole thing. So, anyway, he said, you've got to change your perspective on things like that, because what if it was somebody you loved and they hadn't eaten and now they can finally get something down? You'd be so grateful to hear those sounds. And I thought, you know what? You're really right. Because if that meant a matter of life and death, I would gladly take that. Or somebody snoring next to you in bed and then they end up passing away or they're gone and you miss that sound because it's them, it's part of who they are. So you understand what I'm getting at when I say how important it is to stay present to your life, even the bad stuff or the things that we deem as bad. There can be, like I said, beauty in all of it. For example, this was really unfun, but last night I was out in Ladera Ranch, which is probably like 30 minutes from where I live, and I was in a parking lot. I come back to my car and my tire is completely flat. Now I have like an air compressor in my car. So I'm like, no problem. I'm going to, man up. I'm going to do this. And then I'm like, it's doing it. I'm like, this isn't quite working. And I go to touch the tire and I thought, the air's not supposed to be coming out the side like that. So the point is that I had this busted tire, like literally blue. And I could have been on the freeway. I could have kept driving on it and not known. All these negative things could happen. And so fortunately, everything was fine. But even just sitting there, I had a moment to appreciate that these people in this restaurant were willing. They're like, can we bring you any water? Can you want me to change the tire for you? Just complete strangers were there to help me. And that wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have been able to see that kindness from complete strangers had my tire not exploded. And granted, I would have preferred that my tire not, but that was really beautiful and so touching that these people were so concerned. They were closed and they're like, you can wait in here, this whole thing. And these are all beautiful things. Now, old me, I just would have been angry and I would have sat in my car and cried and pouted and waited for AAA. Well, actually, at the time, I probably wouldn't have had AAA. But the point is that even in that moment of sadness and stress, I was able to, appreciate the kindness that was being presented to me. And if we can do that in our lives on a regular basis, it makes it so much more enjoyable because ultimately we make up a story about whatever's going on anyway. So why don't we make up a good one? You know what I'm saying? So anyway, so I'm talking about being present in life, but how do you actually do that? Because, we get so stuck in thinking about our to-do list, thinking about, I got to walk the dog, or, how am I going to pay this bill? Or how all the things, all the life things that happen, we get stuck thinking about all of that. We're so up in our head that we don't even see what we're looking at in front of us because we're not living in our bodies. So in order to become present to our lives, we need to be living in our bodies. I know it sounds a little hokey, but it makes a difference. And I know a lot of people who know exactly what I'm referring to. Now, I can say this, but what does that even mean? How does somebody start living in their body? Like, what does that mean? Well, I always I check in with myself constantly. And this is a great way for anybody who's watching to start doing this too, is when I start thinking about, let's say I'm out walking my dog, because I do that probably too much, but just because I don't want him to get used to it in case I'm not here. Anyway, I'm checking emails or I'm missing, spending time with my dog baby. And I just realized, as I trip over the crack in the sidewalk, I'm not really there. I'm off working in my head somewhere. So it's really nice to just take a look around and start noticing what's in your space. It's a fabulous way to bring you back to the present moment and actually appreciate what's going on. whenever I start to get too lost in thought, which actually isn't necessarily a really good thing. I mean, I set aside time for thinking, so I don't feel like it's mindless. Um, but the point is that you really want to just be in charge of your mind and not have it run you around. You know what I'm saying? Like, has I don't know about you, but I have missed my exit because I was not paying any mind to where I was driving. I was on automatic pilot. So how do we continue to bring us, it takes practice to bring us back to the present moment. Oh my goodness, it takes so much practice, but it's fun. You can start noticing it first of all when you're not really there. But like I said before, one of the best ways to do that is just take a look around your space and say, okay, take a look and notice something. You can, for me, I look at when I'm outside, I'm looking at nature, I'm looking for something that I haven't noticed before. I turn it into a game. So every time I go on the same loop, the same whatever, I turn it into a game so that I find something new. Whenever I can take, here's another way. Whenever I can take a different way to get to the same place, I will go a different way so that I'm not on automatic pilot. It's really simple. Things like brushing your teeth with your opposite hand, putting on your, and this one's hard to do, putting on your shoes opposite. Like if you always start with your right, start with your left. These are all little tips and tricks to get you to be more present. And also, it's a challenge for your brain. So you're actually working on your dementia or lack thereof. You want to keep that going too, right? Sorry, that was probably a bad joke, but it is true. It does help with memory. It does help build new neural pathways in your brain. And it can help with early onset uh, dementia or Alzheimer's and those really unfun things. But the point, like I said, I keep saying, what's the point? The point is to be present. The point is to actually see what's going on in your life and notice who's there, notice the sounds, notice the smells. When you if you meditate, which if you're not, I highly suggest that you start doing this. This will actually help you become more present as well, because you're learning how to quiet your mind. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I'm talking about that monkey that lives up there that goes running around making a mess of everything. And it's like it won't ever stop thinking. It's always going to have a conversation. But if you can become the observer, and I know that some of this stuff sounds a little crazy to people who aren't necessarily into meditation, but the point is like if you can hear these thoughts, then who's the person hearing them? And that's the observer, which is you, the real you. So you don't need to connect to every single thought that you have. You can have them and still be present in your life. It's when we spend too much time just up in here, all cerebral, that we lose what's happening in front of us. Now, I was a really weird little kid, and I did things like find different people to go to church with because my parents didn't take me to church and I really wanted to go. And so I tried all sorts of different ones. But the thing is that's just an example of how odd I was. But anyway, I just want to say hello to you as well. Thank you for joining us. Anyway, what I was going to say was I had to go watch my cat or take care of my cat in the morning. And I was a teenager and I had to go outside to go around the house to go into the basement. And I remember walking along the path because we lived in the woods. And I remember walking along a little path and looking around, and there's like wind chimes. I still remember the wind chimes. And I remember thinking, I'm never going to remember this. This is my life, and I'm never going to remember this moment. And I've done that periodically throughout my life because it's those little things that when you look back and you lose somebody or something changes suddenly and it's no longer the way it was, those are the things that you wish you had paid more attention to. Those are the things that you wish you had one more time with, one more experience with. So it is ultimately extremely important to try and pay attention to your life as it's happening, because you don't want to get through and think, yeah, I accomplished all this stuff, but I never really enjoyed it. I wasn't there for it. Like going back to me finding my wedding dress. That's a once in a lifetime thing. I'm never going to have that opportunity again. And if I hadn't been present for it and like really enjoyed it and really, made those memories, then how in the heck, could I enjoy that later on in life? And also, another way to stay present too is to journal about all these momentous occasions and the little things too. Having gratitude, that's another thing. Just that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying noticing things. Like, I'm not talking about noticing the dirt that you need to clean, which is something I do. But I'm talking about, like I said before, noticing nature, or um, somebody got me balloons. I'm looking at them right now. Somebody got me balloons as like an engagement. Hello, congratulations. And they're still alive and doing well. It's been like 2 weeks, maybe three. I'm like, what the heck? And that's something that I noticed. Or a new leaf on my tree, or, just the way the sun comes in through the window, or, just maybe like how my pet is laying on the bed. These are all things that will bring you back to the present moment. And it doesn't serve you to not be present, right? Okay, so it is about time for us to go back or go to a really quick commercial. We'll be right back in just a moment. Welcome back, everyone. So, during the commercial break, I was thinking about obviously being present and paying attention to what's going on the screen here. But, I wanted to take it a little step further, because what I've been talking about is, being present for like the everyday stuff, the okayness when it's all right. And like the good things, like really being alive and in your body when things are happening to you. But what about when things aren't going well? What about when all you want to do is not think about, whatever your problem may be? Well, sorry, I've got allergies. My nose is itching like crazy. Anyway, darn Santa Ana's. The point though, back to back to the topic at hand, is that even though it may feel painful, by avoiding your emotions, they don't actually go away. To be able to walk through them again, or through them, not again, but walk through them the first time, ultimately will serve you. Now, I think too about like when people that are important to me have passed on, and there's certain people that I really felt the feels, and I was really, grieving. And I'm telling you, it went by so much quicker when I just let myself be in that moment and experience what I was experiencing. um, and then there was times when I chose to do things like drink or eat too much or go shopping, or a favorite one, watching TV. instead of actually just feeling what I'm feeling. And sometimes it isn't the easiest thing to do to just actually feel what you're feeling. But it's also mandatory in order to get through because, like I said, it doesn't go away. It's kind of like trying to hold a ball underwater, a floaty ball underwater. You can keep it down, but it's going to pop back up. It's not meant to be down at the bottom. It's going to pop back up as soon as let your guard down. So ultimately, you could feel those things in a less negative way if you have coping skills, and that's important too. You got to learn how to cope with things. And as somebody who probably didn't figure it out until her 30s, I understand. And, I lost a lot of people and experienced a lot of trauma and drama before then, and I didn't handle it well. But now I do know. And so if you do need help with something like that, like learning how to deal with the feelings as they are, consider help. Consider maybe a therapist or a pastor, or we can't always put it all on our friends. That's the thing. We can't put it all on our friends. It's not their responsibility. As much as they want to be there for us, there's this thing called secondary trauma. And I know I'm being a little dramatic when I say that, we affect our friends that way, but they can only handle so much as well. And so when we are going through really hard things, we don't need to lay it all on our friends. We can lay it on professionals. And it really does help because then our friends can be our friends and not our therapists, right? So that always makes a difference, right? Okay. Well, you know what? This is getting a little heavy. So I think it's time to switch things up, and we are going to do some tips and some tricks. Okay, tips and tricks, tips and tricks. I love me some tips and tricks. All right, so I'm going to inform some of you. Some of you already know this, but those bounce sheets you use in your dryer, that fresh smell that, when you're cleaning your clothes, that's actually a carcinogen, and what you're breathing in is a poison. So that, delicious smell is really not good for you. So one of the things that you can do instead, because we don't want staticky clothing, is you can get these are little wool balls, and put these in your dryer, and it will help with that. And if you're like me and you want it to be more fun, you can get these cute little guys too. See, this one's been used, as you can see. So anyway, this is my little owl guy. But you can put those in your dryer, and that will help with the static cling, and it will not poison you while you're drying your clothes. Now, another thing you could do too, it's not quite as good as the wool balls, but maybe you're an animal rights activist and you don't want wool balls, then you can get those dryer sheets that don't have any scent. And I know it's not as much fun, but it's better for you. It's better for your skin, because you've got to remember too that your skin is your biggest organ, and you are letting in everything through your skin. So, if you're putting on clothes, that those chemicals are sitting on your skin. If you're laying in your sheets, those chemicals are sitting on your skin. You know what I mean? So it is important to try and avoid those types of things, because they're poison. I know. It's not as much fun, right? All right. So here's another tip and trick. This one I thought was phenomenal. As a smoothie maker, and I just learned this one recently, but I thought it was brilliant. A lot of us like to use ice cubes in our smoothies, and it's kind of boring, but we make it so that we use them so that it's cold and like a little chunky and fun. So instead of using regular ice cubes, you know what you could do that would be even more healthy and even more fun for your smoothies is to actually use, get out the plastic tray, and put in coconut water, and use coconut water ice cubes for your smoothies instead of just regular water. Mind blown. It's so much better for you. The electrolytes, oh my gosh, it's phenomenal. All right. So that's another tip or trick for you. And I've got one more, and it's an oldie but a goodie. And for those of you who don't know it, your mind might just go, pow. I know it was a good one for me. So if you're anything like me, you drive a fair amount. Especially if you're in California, you pretty much have to drive everywhere. So start leveraging your commute, start leveraging your time in the car instead of maybe listening to the radio, the news radio, and all that. You can start instead educating yourself. Those books, those self-help books, the self-improvement books that you've always wanted to read that you don't have enough time for, listen to them in your car. That way you are getting your education, and it's not a waste of time just sitting in your car. It's leveraging your time. It's that idea of using your time wisely, as they say. All right. You know what? We are going to go for one more really quick commercial break. I know we're trying something different today, but we'll be right back in just a moment.
Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversation. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Welcome back again. All right. So, during the commercial, I'm always thinking, I'm always planning, I'm always whatevering. And I thought of one more tip and trick that I really want to share with everyone, that also will help you stay present. It's this idea of the standing desk, and I love it because it keeps you, I don't know, standing. But here's the thing, like, if you're standing constantly, it is just as bad for your health as sitting constantly. So, one of the things that you could do to help yourself stay present and also help your health is to, if you are going to do a standing desk, get the kind that moves up and down. Now, the point is for you to change levels throughout the day, not just sit all day, not just stand all day, but to actually literally change levels, from sitting to standing to laying down to, whatever, do it all, because that is what is the most helpful for your health. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did not turn off my ringer. Sorry, everyone. Anyway, live TV, right? But anyway, the thing is that if you want to stay present, you're being aware of where your body is part of being present. So changing the levels of, standing versus sitting, getting up, that will help you. Yeah. And then, of course, the number one thing about that is movement in general. You need to have movement. You can't be stagnant in one spot. You definitely need to be moving around instead of just standing or just sitting, right? So there needs to be movement, not constantly, but, get some movement back into your life if you don't have it. All right. Guess what time it is? All right, I have got the bowl of questions. And there's one in here that I know of that I'm desperate to answer because I saw it. And oh, here we go. I like this one because it's the holidays. This is a really good question. It wasn't the one I was just referring to. But anyway, is there a test that can tell me if I'm too stressed out? Okay, I love that question because, we're always trying to gauge our levels of this or that. Do I need a pill? Do I not need a pill? Do I, whatever. Here's the thing. If you're asking if you're too stressed out, then you have a stress issue. So there's your answer in a nutshell. There are some online tools that you can use to, like, online quizzes and things that you can use to discover your stress level. But if you are asking that question, now might be a good time to get some help. There's no shame in asking for help from whoever. And even if you ask somebody for help and it's not working out well, you don't have to stay with them. You don't have to continue on that path. The point is to get out there and do the hard part, which is actually asking. All right, let's get on to the next one. Let's see here. Okay. Oh, I love this question. Okay. All right. I think my relative has a drinking problem. What can I do to help? All right. All right. So first of all, there's this thing in the addiction world where nobody can diagnose you as an alcoholic except for yourself. Nobody can diagnose you as a drug addict except for yourself. Now, obviously, even if people are denying it by, like, what they're saying, doesn't mean that they aren't fully aware that they have a serious issue. A lot of people don't actually, though. A lot of people really think that they have it under control. But here's the thing, when you have to start controlling something, you have an issue. It's as simple as that. You have an issue if you have to control it. When was the last time you had to worry about drinking too much water? When was the last time you had to worry about, eating too many vegetables? Like, these are, you see where I'm going with this, right? But anyway, what can you do to help? Here's the thing, there's no one right answer. You can talk to the person privately and see if they need help, but confronting somebody is always tricky. It depends on how far down the addiction road they are. But here's the thing, like, no matter what you do, it's still up to them whether or not they are going to seek help, whether they are going to change, the point is, it is up to them. There's not really anything you could do for them except for be there for them in what serves you. Like, if they keep doing this, like, keep drinking and keep crying about it the next day, that's not necessarily serving you to keep hearing the same story over and over again. Or if they, don't take any suggestions and they're still, not doing so well. But ultimately, you have to do what's best for you. And my number one suggestion for trying to help is do what's best for you. Because ultimately, if something happens to them, you have to live with yourself. You have to be like, okay, I did what I could. And then realize it's still up to them 100%. And something else that I highly, 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 highly recommend is, if you're feeling stressed about it, for you to go get yourself some help as well. And that doesn't have to be a therapist. It could be, the codependency, where you could go to one of those groups, or Al-Anon. Al-Anon is awesome because it really helps people realize, one, they're not alone, and two, the only person you can control is you. And you can offer help, but it doesn't mean it's always going to be received, and it doesn't mean that it's going to work the first time either. So ultimately, you just have to do what's going to work for you in the long run, because they still have to make their choices. Now, I know so many people who didn't get the opportunity to go to rehab, and they're sober, they're clean. They never went to rehab. They made it. They did it all on their own. I say all on their own. They did it with a group of people, but not in that particular medical setting. You know what I'm saying? And some people don't even do that. They don't go the AA route. They don't go the NA route. They just somehow, they change their lifestyle and decide not to do it again. And they learn new life skills in order to cope with things better. So the thing is like, it's ultimately not your path and not your business. It's, you can offer assistance, but be prepared for the person to either not say yes to themselves, it's not about you, or to try and not succeed the first time. That's really common as well. So just keep that in mind, especially with the holiday seasons. If you have, that's actually a really good point. If you have somebody that's like in early recovery, maybe it would be nice if y'all didn't drink in front of them, as a show of support and kindness to where they are. Some people just want everybody to be normal. And so you have to figure out who your audience is, who you're working with. But there are ways that you can support somebody else. Like if you guys always went out to, Margarita Mondays, for example, maybe instead of Margarita Mondays, try and do something else instead that's a little more healthy, that doesn't involve alcohol. Or maybe not more healthy, but doesn't involve alcohol, So there are different ways that you can help in your own way. But just know that person's feeling a lot of shame and a lot of fear. And they're not happy with themselves either for what they're doing, because things can't be going that well for them if you're noticing. You know what I mean? That it can't be that great. So keep that in mind. Show some compassion, but show yourself some compassion as well. All right, next question. Ooh, can stress be good for you? Why, yes, stress can be good for you. It just depends on if you are letting it run your life or not. So think about, like, all stress is stress. For graduation from high school, that's stressful. Finishing chemotherapy, that's a stress too, but that's a good stress, right? So there are things, but the difference between good stress and, bad stress is like how you respond. So, that's up to you. You get to choose, because nobody gets to tell you how to feel. Not even you, really. I mean, what I'm saying is you don't have to give in to that automatic response that is expected of you, or the one that you've always had before. Instead, you could look at it like, for example, let's say this huge bill suddenly comes in and you don't know how you're going to pay it, and it's mandatory that you pay it. You can freak out, or you can think of it as a game, like, how am I going to do this? And this is a puzzle, and I've got to figure out this puzzle because there's a way to figure it out. So, those are two totally different responses. And, the stress is handled differently by your response. So, it's all up to you. Or even like, some people get thrilled about going to concerts, and other people are deathly afraid because they don't want to be around that many people. So, it's not the thing outside of you that's causing the stress. It's how you're responding to life that's happening. So it's up to you to choose what your response is going to be. And I don't want you beating yourself up, even if you don't have the response you think you should, or that you would have liked to have, because that's not going to serve you, right? So just cut yourself some slack and show yourself some grace, and go from there. All right, let's see what else we got up in here. All right. Ooh, how do I choose the right coach? I love this question. I think I've had this one before. But how do I choose the right coach? All right. So you want to interview your coach or your possible coach. And what I'm saying about that is it could even be them interviewing you, because you'll get a lot of insight about who they are and how they coach if they are interviewing you. And what kind of questions are they asking you? What is their interest? Are they only talking about themselves? Are they only talking about the results that they get? You know, I really hesitate to read Yelp reviews and things like that. However, they are, useful to a lot of people. I want to talk to the person. I want to get a feel for who they are. I want to, have my own experience. Now, the thing is I'm going to know right away if somebody's just trying to toot their own horn, or if they're actually interested in me, what my issues are and how they're going to help me. Because I don't care that you help Sally with her, I don't know, overeating, because I don't have an overeating issue. So, how are you going to help me? What does that look like? How can we do this? And you'll know by the questions that they ask whether or not they are going to understand you. Now, that doesn't mean you have to pick somebody that's exactly like you. You could pick somebody that's completely different because you want to bring out new behaviors in yourself, right? So they don't have to be exactly like you. They could be somebody that you would never associate with, because like in your personal life, because they're so different from you. And that's okay, because they're going to bring out different things from you. But if you want more of the same, then you stick with the same, right? So these are things to think about as to what your ultimate goal is and what it is that you need to reach your goal. What have you been doing so far that hasn't been working? What do you think it will take for you to get there? What's that missing piece for you? These are things that you need to ask yourself, right? And then something else that I think is probably one of the most important aspects of picking out a coach is, who is their coach? If they don't have one, red flag. If they don't have at least one coach, red flag. You want me to invest my money in you and you don't invest money in a coach? That is a red flag. I'm just saying, like, do as they say, not as I do, and it really helps too when, because coaching can, like, that can be expensive and it is an investment in yourself. But if you're coaching with somebody who has never spent that money and never thought, whoa, I don't know if I could do this, then how can they ever relate to what you're going through? You know what I mean? So those are certain things that I would keep in mind and think about when I'm picking a coach is, what characteristics do they have that I want to be brought out in me? Or is it better that, I just flourish where I am? Like, maybe I need somebody who's going to help me be more myself, and then I'll succeed. You don't need somebody beating you up for the things that you're proud of. Like sensitive people, for example, you don't need to change. You don't need to be less sensitive. It's okay to be sensitive. And the only reason why people say, oh, you're too sensitive, is because they feel uncomfortable. I don't give a crap. They don't care about how comfortable you feel, obviously, because they're telling you that you're wrong for being yourself. Now, if you feel like you're too sensitive, then you can do something about it, but not because somebody else tells you. There's nothing wrong with you. So, that's just an example. Like, maybe you need somebody who's going to nourish that aspect of you so you feel safe enough to grow. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little heated over that one. All right, let's see what else we got here. Next question. Okay. What intensity of exercise should I do? Okay. So, I get this all the time. Like, somebody's trying to lose weight, so now they're going to go full bore and they're going to try like CrossFit and go like hardcore, like, rah, I'm going for it. Yeah. I mean, if you really enjoy that, then by all means, please do it, because that's the exercise you're actually going to do. But if you're more of a jogger or a walker, then doing something like that is not optimal. But here's the thing. The sciences, the studies show that moderate intensity for nearly all cardiovascular activities have the most benefits. So what does that even mean? Because I'm like, what does he mean moderate? Because how do you gauge like how wet something is, right? Same thing with moderate. How do you know what moderate is? Well, here's the deal. Like, if you can carry on a conversation and it's hard for you to carry on a conversation, but you can if you have to, that's moderate. In fact, and that's great for losing weight as well. So, when you start working out really hard and your heart's pumping and all that, it's not as great for weight loss as much as it is for cardiovascular strength. So, there's nothing wrong with either one, but what are your goals? So that is something that you should ask yourself. But the most benefit, like overall for cardio, or exercise in general, is going to be moderate intensity. And like I said, moderate means you could talk, but you don't want to. That's what moderate means. Just so y'all know. All right, because yeah, like I said, it's like trying to gauge how wet something is. All right. Okay. I think I touched on this a little bit, but how do I take control of situations that are stress inducers? All right. Ooh, good question, especially when we're in the holiday season around those relatives that, know how to magically push all of our buttons. Isn't it fabulous how they can do that? And it's like, what the hell? You don't want to be mean because they're your relatives, but at the same time, you want to choke them out. I'm just kidding, people. I'm just kidding. Okay. So anyway, what can you do? All right, if you know that you're walking into a stressful situation, give yourself an out. Make sure you have a way to disengage from the situation whenever you need. Like, you know how a lot of women will do, like, if they're going on a blind date or a date that they're unsure of, have the friend call with an emergency. Set yourself up with a way that you can get out of this stressful situation. Something else you could do is prepare mentally beforehand, before you're going into this stressful situation, prepare yourself mentally and psych yourself up, kind of like a cheerleader. Just cheer yourself on. That will help you. Some other things too is like, if you don't even know about when this stress is going to happen, you need to have better stress response in the first place. So, like I always talk about, meditation, journaling, gratitude, all of these things will help with your stress. Also, can we also mention you need plenty of water? That's something that you need to do no matter what. But if you're going into a stressful situation, make sure you drink plenty of water. You're well rested. That is really important. And also that you've eaten well, because you don't need your sugar spiking, while you're having this argument or stressful situation. But if you keep your body in optimal health, if you keep your body in good condition, then it doesn't have to concentrate on much except for what's going on. It doesn't have to worry about all this other stuff. So my recommendation is prepare yourself for the long term and figure out how to reduce your stress overall, so that when things do come up, you're not as stressed out when they do, because you're okay. Like, I can't even tell you. I think that money is one of those things that people are most stressed about, especially around the holidays. And take the pressure off yourself. Let's say you getting those Christmas presents is too much for you right now. Decide to do Valentine's Day gift exchange instead. And just enjoy the holiday with your family or your friends, or however you're going to do it. But the point is that you need to figure out how to lower your stress before you go into the situation. What's going to work for you is, saying a little prayer going to help calm you down, having a friend cheer you on through a text message. These are all things that you can do to help mitigate that stress during the situation. And like I said, create an out and give yourself something fun to do after you're done, because then you're more likely to do it again in the future if you have to. Because when you end on a negative note with anything, your brain is like, oh, hell no, I'm never doing that again. So it makes it harder and harder and harder to do it. All right, we got time for maybe one more question. Let's see here. Oh, I love this one. Can you eat healthy and still be overweight? Yes. Yes, you can. You can eat healthy and still be overweight. Now, couple things. One is there's no such thing as big bones. I've never seen a fat skeleton. Have you? I've never seen a skeleton that had ginormous bones ever. They're all basically the same size. So you're not big boned. You might carry more meat on those bones, but you're not big boned. And that's okay. Like some people are thicker than other people, and that's just how we're all built. That doesn't mean that you're unhealthy, but you can be overweight and still eat healthy. Now, this is a thing you need to be looking at. Are you actually eating healthy food? Just because something says it's healthy probably doesn't mean much, because first of all, if it's telling you it's healthy, then they're trying to sell you something. Like I didn't see anywhere on that apple label that it's healthy and good for your heart. I don't see it anywhere on that broccoli, you know. You don't see those claims, right? On anything that's healthy. And then the other thing too is like, are you eating processed healthy food? It's still processed, you know. People ask me about things like veggie grill, for example. Is that good for you? Is the question I get all the time. Because it's one of my favorite places to eat. But it's my McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't eat meat, but that doesn't make it any less processed. Some of the stuff, you know. So are you actually eating healthy is a good question to ask yourself. Are you eating whole foods? Are you eating healthy in the respect of like portions? Because you can overeat too much of a good for you thing. That is possible. It's 100% possible. How many calories are you ingesting? It can be sneaky. Like, are you drinking your calories? So these are all things that you can take a look at and wonder about and check and see if that's where you're at. But ultimately, yes, you can eat healthy and still be overweight, because if you're ingesting too many calories or even food that your body cannot process well, that can lead to being bloated and bloated and what's it called? Inflammation. It causes inflammation. So think about that. Like maybe you're eating something that your body cannot tolerate well. Like for me, I love tomatoes. Tomatoes don't love me. Beets, I love beets. Beets hate me. Oh my God, they make me so sick. But tomatoes don't make me sick. But I see it. I see it in my body, and I see it in my skin, and I see it in my sleep. So you got to start paying better attention to what kind of healthy foods you're eating, because maybe you can't tolerate them. So something to think about. Okay, well, that is about all the time that we have for today's show. Oh my goodness, time flies when you're talking your mouth off. But anyway, it's going to just be me tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but on Thursday. And I do have some special guests coming up in the near future, but I'll keep you guys posted on that. And until then, just enjoy your week, enjoy your Monday, and I look forward to seeing you guys all again soon. Don't mind me if I itch my or scratch my itchy nose one more time. I swear it's just allergies. Anyway, thanks again for being here today, and we'll see you again soon.